Trying to buy your first home. Let's talk about it.
This video is for all my other 25 to 35-year-olds. Is everything just going to be impossible for us? I mean, I can't buy a house. I can't. I've put in offers on 2 different homes. One of them wasn't even reviewed. The other one, we were in second. We didn't get it. And every house that I put on my list ends up being pending or it's already gone. It's already under contract the next day. So I'm just feeling exhausted and I'm ready to give up. I just think maybe I'm just not supposed to have a house. I'm 29, I have a baby, I'm married, I'm ready. And I think our generation is just getting screwed. I mean, even this car, I had people quoting me like 4 times the MSRP price on this car. Why are we in this? Why can't I just get a regular MSRP price? No, everything is extreme. Everything. You can't. Inflation, all these things, since I've been an adult, ready to do adult things, are literally out of control. And I need to have a rant because I'm just sick of it. I'm ready to give up. It's like I'm just going to rent the rest of my life because these people are out of their minds. I just went to an open house and this house was a dump. It was disgusting. It gave me the ick. It was so dirty. They didn't put any time into cleaning it. It looked disgusting. There was crap on the wall. I mean, just disgusting. Smelled bad. And they had that house listed at $425. I wouldn't pay $250 for that house. I would not pay $250 for that house. And that house was at $425. It's the end for our generation. It's just the end.
Yes, right now is a very tough time for both millennials and Gen Zers to be buying homes. When you combine elevated prices in homes as well as elevated interest rates, that is, well, a recipe for disaster, and it prices a lot of the younger individuals out from buying a home. Unfortunately, though, that is where we are at in a society. It is one of the hardest times in the history of our country to purchase a home based on where current home prices are combined with current wages. The one part that I hate is that I talk to what are supposed to be new first-time home buyers every single day, and when I talk to them, some of these people, one, have no idea how expensive it is to own a home or to purchase a home, and also they weren't expecting the mortgage payment. I tell them, after I break down everything for pricing with them, it really is a sticker shock on how much it costs to purchase and to maintain and buy a home. Now, this next clip is a relatively longer one than I usually like to put on the channel, but when I do put longer clips on the videos, they're worth it.
Young people can't buy homes, and it's becoming harder and harder every day. It's one of the biggest problems we face as a country. They tell you that over and over, but they never explain why. The media is not interested in educating you. They're interested in you being mad about it. And developers and banks, they profit off you not knowing. A home that would cost you $24,000 in the beginning of 1970s, at the end of 2020 would have cost you $340,000. Now, part of that's just simple inflation. It happens over time. And natural inflation would raise the price of that home to $177,000. But that delta between $177,000 and $340,000, something else is up. And the biggest component of that is you're not buying the same house. See, all those numbers are based upon the average home. An average home in the 1950s had 983 square feet. By the 1970s, it was up to 1,500 square feet, but today it's over 2,600 square feet. All this while the number of people living in those homes is dropping dramatically. In 1950s, everybody had 290 square feet to themselves. Today, every person in the average home has 1,000 square feet. That's bigger than a home that an entire family lived in the 1950s. And that's only part of the problem, because that's livable space. The biggest growth has happened in non-livable space. In the 1950s, the 1970s, most people had carports. Today, they have 2, 3, and even 4-car garages. Those garages are bigger than the houses people were buying in the 1970s. It's not only driving up the price of the home, but all of your other expenses as well. You pay more in property tax, you pay more in utilities, you pay more in interest on your loan, in maintenance, in furniture, in cleaning. Everything is more expensive because the homes are bigger. United States food portions are known the world over for their excessiveness, and larger portions mean larger people. Larger homes mean larger costs. Larger costs means young people aren't able to afford homes. One of the biggest financial mistakes you will make in your life is to buy the home that you're told you can afford. You can't. Buy a home that costs half of what they tell you you can afford. Figuring that out is one of the reasons why I'm able to now live on a small Caribbean island. After my divorce, I was getting ready to buy a home, and I looked at all the big expensive homes that people like me were buying, and a light bulb went off. And instead, I bought a small 850 square foot lot, and I lived in that instead at dramatically reduced cost. Because I wasn't house poor, I could then take that money and put it into my savings account. So when I came down to the small Caribbean island, I got drunk in a bar and I decided to buy property and build a house, I had the money available. So when you're sitting there thinking, I want a big home and I want more space and I want to look successful like other people, what dreams is that larger payment taking away from you? What are you giving up? Is all that financial strife and all that anxiety and all that feeling like you just can't get caught up, is that worth it?
Love that guy, by the way. I watch his videos every now and then. The lifestyle he created for himself is pretty cool, and it's motivating, right? And he makes a lot of great points in that clip. One of them being American society and how we live today. We are a consumer culture. I talk about this all the time. We are buy, spend, need more, bigger space to put my crap in. When it really comes down to it, I mean, you really don't need that much to live in a home. You don't. This goes back to one of my previous videos I just put out, I think last week, about minimalism. The less crap and stuff you have, the less space you need to fill up the house. One thing that we get, my wife and I, we get crap for every now and then, and it's all good stuff, but like, besides my office here, like as you can tell, like this wall and stuff I worked on right when we moved in, nowhere else in our house do we have decorations yet. Nowhere. It's just blank space, walls. Nowhere in our house, we don't have a kitchen table yet. We've been using this picnic table that my wife's dad bought us, gosh dang, years ago. We do not have a bed frame that we use for our bed. And like, some of you out there may be like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? But my wife and I have these talks, and we're like, no, the kitchen table, like we need though. We will get that soon. But we've gotten so used to this picnic table. It's like one of those plastic fold out. Like it's a nice table, but it's not a kitchen table. And when people come over, they're like, what the hell is this? But like my wife and I, we just don't care, right? We don't care. We're not the type of people where like, I need to impress the next person. I've never, ever been like that in my life, ever. And then like, whenever we look at that stuff and we look at our walls and my wife's like, should we put some stuff up? I'm like, we'll get to it. Like, there's no rush. No rush at all. Like, why? Why do I need to do that? And I think that's the reason and kind of the way we've lived our life since literally we've been married is why we've been able to do the stuff that we've been able to do in our life. My wife and I have been able to take trips. We have flexibility, to be able to do what we want when we want. And I say all that because it took us a long time to get there. But the reason we got there is because we don't frivolously just go spend money like nothing. We don't. We are very conscious about every single dollar we spend. If anything, we could probably pull back a little bit on food, but that's what we enjoy to do. We enjoy taking the family out to eat and going and trying different places or going to, our favorite spots over and over again. But the moral of the story with that clip is like, when you're out looking for a home, you don't need the biggest, nicest, fanciest house you can afford. You don't. This house that we bought, my wife and I, we could have purchased a much larger, bigger home, but we chose not to. One, because I didn't want to pay the interest rate and I could pay cash for this property. And also this checked off a lot of boxes that we wanted. And it worked for us. It did. It was in, good school districts, and it worked. So sometimes you have to have that mindset, or you have to have that thought with yourself, like, you don't have to have the nicest, prettiest looking thing. Just get something that works functionally for you.
He's a real estate agent in Orlando. Freddie, great to see you again. What does this mean for someone who earns kind of a median income in the United States, maybe in their mid-20s, early 30s?
You hit the nail on the head. This is the problem that we are facing as millennials and Gen Z. The median household income sits around $81,000, but yet the average house is $400,000 in this country. And with the 8% interest rates, you need to earn about $120,000 a year to have a shot at qualifying for this loan. But for a millennial or a Gen Z, they're not going to come up with $80,000 to $100,000 for a down payment. We're lucky to get $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. But again, you still need that 120 income to back it up. So I think we're going to have to figure out for millennials and Gen Z and future generations how to redefine the American dream, or how to solve this massive issue, because it's bleeding into every other part of our lives. If you're forced to rent and spend 40% of your money, how are you paying off your student loan debt? How are you investing in a retirement fund? How are you saving for a down payment if 40% goes to housing?
Yo, that is killing a lot of people's budgets right now, is the cost of living. Because not only are you paying high cost in rent, you still got to pay utilities. Luckily, when you're renting, you don't have to pay any maintenance or anything like that, because that's what a lot of people don't understand. When you buy your first home and when you get into a property, it's not just the mortgage payment that you have to worry about affording. You have the mortgage payment, you have taxes and insurance if you don't work that into escrow. Escrow is basically just an account that you pay with your mortgage that holds that money for whenever your tax and insurance bill comes at the end of the year. The mortgage company pays that tax bill and insurance bill from your escrow account, so you don't have to worry about it. My wife and I, since we don't have a mortgage, we just pay that bill at the end of the year every year. But for those of you that aren't necessarily unaware of or not sure what escrow accounts are, that's what they are. But on top of that, you have utilities, gas, water, electric, whatever else you may need. You have maintenance. I'll be honest with you. There's two guarantees in this world. That's death and taxes. You can probably add a third one on if you're a homeowner and say maintenance. I'm being serious. And every homeowner out there watching this video, I know you will agree with me. If you own a house, you're gonna have to pay maintenance at some point in some time. Now, if you're handy, you'll save a lot of money and be able to fix stuff yourself. If you don't know how to swing a hammer, you're gonna have to pay a little more for have somebody to come out and do that job for you. And that's stuff you have to think about before you get into this house. Is you can't just look at the mortgage payment and say, oh yeah, I'm good. Sweet, we can afford that. That's 40% of our income. We'll be all right. Well, no, what happens if you have to replace the roof? What happens if you have your AC go out? And on top of that, you find mold in the basement or in the crawl space, and you have to get that remediated and fixed. Oh, and also it was freezing for 2 weeks in a row, and one of your water pipes bursted all in the same month. How would you be able to do that? Now, again, that was a pretty severe circumstance, but it could happen. It very well could. And how shitty would it be to barely be getting by because you took on too big of a mortgage payment, and now you have all these fixes you have to fix or all these maintenance items you have to get to on your house. Those are things you have to think about as a first-time home buyer. And the only thing that makes it more difficult is the rising costs in homes we've seen over the past 100 years.
So let me get this straight. We can't afford rent because rent prices are increasing so much to push us out to buy homes. But the interest rate is so high, you can't buy a home. And also you're not going to get funded for a home because of your debt to income ratio. So then what? And then homelessness or houselessness is becoming criminalized. So then what? I don't understand. To be honest, I really like the idea of building a commune, aside from like the culty aspect of it, but essentially buying land, driving vans, building a tiny houses on it, and everyone shares.
Now, there's one thing I've thought about doing in my local area, just because I do know there's still need for homes in this spot, is I would love to build like a little tiny home village, like something that's definitely livable, and a family of 4 could live in this space, but they'd have to definitely share bedrooms and stuff like that. But how cool would it be to build like a little tiny home community that is affordable for the maybe home buyer that can't afford these $300,000, $400,000 homes? And I would love to be able to develop something like that. Now, maybe down the road. I don't know if I can do that right now with everything I got going on, but That would be a goal of mine, is to, buy some land and then just develop maybe, I don't know, 50 or more tiny homes and have their own little tiny home like subdivision, because I really do think a lot of people would, or it could be a 55 plus community, because as you get older, you don't need nearly the amount of space because you don't have kids or anything else to worry about, and you may be living by yourself. But she made a good point. Like, so we need to stop building such massive homes if it is going to cost a lot to build these homes, which in return is going to cost even more to buy the home. Why don't we just start building smaller? And we're already seeing that. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of builders build now like 12, 13, 1,400 square foot homes instead of the, 2, 3, 4,000, 5,000 plus square foot homes. The crappy part is that we do have to adjust during the times that we're living in. And that may be one of the ways that I want to do that, is to just, build a more affordable home area and sell off those properties to families who maybe are priced out of the larger homes in our area, but they can still get in and be able to buy something, in an also relatively up and coming nice neighborhood.
I'm tired of millennials complaining that you can't buy a house. Yeah, we got the shit end of the stick multiple times. We've lived through so many catastrophes, but there is a way to buy homes. There's a way to invest in homes, and unfortunately we don't like to be inconvenienced. So I'm here to tell you that if you want to buy a house, you're going to have to go into a different market and buy something affordable that you can actually afford to pay for. Inconvenience yourself by taking a flight. There's a solution. We have to go to affordable markets to buy things that our dollar can pay for. Inconvenience yourself for a bit. You'll be happy you did.
I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again, and some of you hate when I say it, but it's the truth. I mean, some of you who live in New York and California and these very expensive areas, and you guys are complaining how you'll never be able to buy a house, move. I mean, I get it. It sucks. It's not the most ideal situation, especially if your family lives there. I get it. And if you don't want to do that, don't do it. For sure don't. But I mean, this has happened for hundreds of years in the history of our planet. When there's new opportunity or things are getting tough and you have to leave, you can't afford where you're living, so you got to move somewhere else. And I've seen arguments out there where like, oh, well, if everyone moves to this one spot in this one town, well, that's just going to raise prices over there. I mean, there's thousands of cities that are more affordable than the most expensive areas in our country, that yes, if a ton of people flooded into one market, yes, it's going to increase prices. But if everyone's spread throughout the country and figured out the different, more affordable places to live, well, they could probably afford a house. And another thing we really need to pay attention to as millennials and Gen Zers is how we spend our money. As she said, we don't like to be inconvenienced. We like treats. We like spending our money every single day. Think about that for a second. How long has it been, or how long could you go, I guess I should say, without spending any money? That means no coffees on the way to work, no stopping at the gas station to get a little snack. How long could you do that for? See, a lot of us complain and we sit here and whine about wages not keeping up with inflation, which is 100% true, and I agree with you guys on that. But that's also, unfortunately, the cards we were dealt. And for us to get by and to live a better lifestyle, we have to sacrifice and inconvenience ourselves now in order to set ourselves up financially to be able to live the lifestyle that we want to live. Yes, it sucks. Yes, I know. But that's what we got to do. Do you think people who lived through the Depression wanted to live that? No. But that's the cards they were dealt. They got through it, and it actually made them pretty tough. It made them a very tough generation. So maybe that's what we got to do. We got to live frugally. We got to sacrifice. We maybe got to inconvenience ourselves to live the lifestyle we want to live. But the real question is, are you willing to do that?